all finished today.
Okay.
Just give me a few minutes.
All right.
Okay. Now, let's talk first about the deleted messages on the message between Jennifer and Brian Meloche. So when you looked at the return, it didn't just say unsent, it had the red X insignia next to it. What does that signify to you?
That it is deleted.
Okay, so clearly Jennifer Crumbley knew how to delete those messages.
Correct.
Okay, and in fact, she deleted ones that said, we're on the run again.
That's correct.
And we're fucked.
Correct.
Okay, and I want to talk to you just really quickly about this word right here. It was a harmless act. That signify anything to you?
Yes, it does.
How so?
It was also written on the modified math paperwork.
Harmless act, right there. Okay, that's Exhibit 123. And Jennifer was sent that.
Correct.
And she was sent that on November the 30th before the shooting.
That's correct.
She was also sent this, People 74. On People 74, the shooter wrote, help me.
Correct.
She was sent that, and she saw that.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and then she communicated about that with her husband.
Correct.
Okay. Now, you were asked lots and lots and lots of questions about, is there any evidence of, did you find any evidence of certain topics? So, specifically with deleted content, you can't tell if there's something that was deleted but unable to be recovered by search warrant.
That's correct.
And we've already established that Jennifer Crumbley knew how to delete. In fact, she did delete certain messages.
Correct.
All right. And one message in particular she deleted from to Kira Pennick was that picture of this drawing.
Correct.
Okay. And speaking of that exhibit between Jennifer Crumbley and Kira Pennick, that's People's 130. In those exhibits, they're in front of you if you want to look at them. There's about 28 pictures. They're screenshots. So there are many communications regarding her horses.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So one of the first things she does after the meeting is say, I can't, or after the shooting rather, is I won't be able to make it there tonight. Is that correct?
I believe that's correct. I can look it up.
Take a look. And tell us the time that came in too. You know what? I'll pull it up for you.
Yeah, I don't see it real quick.
That's all right. I'll pull it up for you. (2:36 p.m.) Kira, I won't be there tonight. Okay, it's on the screen.
Okay.
That's part of Exhibit 130. And that is, the shooting ended at 1 p.m. So that's an hour and 36 minutes after he was taken into custody.
Correct. I see it now. Yes.
That's 6 minutes after she arrived home from the substation, after she was brought there.
Correct.
And that's the last time she saw her son.
Correct.
6 minutes after. Okay. So you were asked about a lot of questions about this Facebook chat here, including a particular message where Jennifer says, I wish there had been some kind of warnings.
Correct.
Okay.
Remember that.
But she sent this to Kira, and this is the picture where he said, help me, with a picture of, or he wrote, help me, with a picture of the firearm.
Correct.
Okay. And she deleted that, though. She later on deleted that particular text that she sent to Kira.
Correct.
But you were asked a lot of questions about this big stack of these messages between James and Jennifer Crumbley. Do you remember those questions from counsel?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you were asked if there were certain messages about any messages that Jennifer had about my son's going to shoot up the school, things like that.
I remember that. Yes.
Okay. You have had a chance to review some of those messages, or all of those messages.
Yes.
Okay. And was there anything in the messages indicating they were going to take him to see a therapist?
No, there was not.
Anything in there indicating they were worried and they wanted to take him to see a psychiatrist?
No, there was not.
Was there any time they tried to set up any mental health counseling?
No.
in the phone logs or text messages from the period after the school meeting till the shooting, were there any indications that they researched any mental health professionals?
No, there was not.
Did they call any counseling offices?
No, they were.
Did they call any psychiatrists?
No.
I'd like you just referring to that message, and Judge, for the record, again, I'd like to omit the entire thread as Exhibit 423. That's the entire Facebook thread between James and Jennifer Crumbley. I'd like to have that available for the jury if they want to look at that.
Your Honor, I would have no objection to that as long as we redact the things that this court's already deemed inadmissible.
Okay.
That would be fine.
Okay, I don't recall specifically what those are, but if there's already been a ruling and things have been redacted, then I would like those taken out.
Certainly.
Okay.
Certainly. Sir, if you could, referring to what would be Exhibit 423, contrast for the jury, please, the amount of time and messages between James and Jennifer Crumbley regarding their horses with their messages regarding their son.
Your Honor, I would object. There needs to be a foundation that he can even determine this or has data to support this.
Sure.
Did you look at the messages?
I looked at the messages. Yes.
Okay. Are you able to contrast the amount of time and messages between James and Jennifer Crumbley regarding their horses versus
Your Honor,
their son?
I would object. This is misleading and speculative, and there's been lots of talk about things that have been deleted, that we don't have all the messages. So I would object, Your Honor.
Judge, for the record, the point is that counsel asked, is there any evidence of when this witness has already testified, so things are deleted, and he's going to testify what's actually on thread.
Okay, I'm eating your dust a little bit here. Okay, first of all, you want 423 text messages between
Facebook messages.
Facebook messages between Mr. and Mrs. Crumbley admitted in a redacted form. I'm going to ask that the redacted form be verified by Ms. Smith, and then I'll admit 423 because you do not object.
Thank you.
Okay, you want him to ask him. He's going to be estimating, obviously.
I'm asking for an estimation.
And Your Honor, I was not allowed to ask his interpretation of topics or words that were in there. And so for the prosecutor to ask this question, that's asking him to interpret how often they're talking about various topics. That's the same kind of question I was asking, and I was prohibited from asking.
Well, so you asked him to interpret something that someone said or what they thought, which you can't do.
I also asked questions about, in those text messages, there was nothing about I believe our son could be a shooter. And that was objected to, and he wasn't able to.
He answered.
There were other questions along the same lines where I was not able to talk about.
No, he answered that there were no communications like that. He answered that. I mean, if you had another example, he reviewed all of these the text messages. He also said some were deleted. He looked at the Facebook, right?
423 is going to be admitted, so it can be argued later. I will withdraw my objection.
Okay.
Could you contrast for us the amount of messages between James and Jennifer Crumbley regarding their horses with the messages regarding their son?
I would say there was a vast majority of just discussing their horses and putting ointments on their legs and getting the vets to see them. If I had to put a number on it, it'd be upwards of 75, 80% of the conversation.
Over what period of time, if you know?
With that volume right there.
Oh, okay. When does that start and when does it end?
It's early 2021.
Early 2020. Okay. All right.
Thank you. Now, what about the percentage of time expressing concern over themselves?
Your Honor, I object. This is speculation, and there's no way he doesn't have data on this.
Do you have data on this?
Just the conversation after the pictures were sent, they drew on the math paper, and there's a couple other conversations about him having a headache and that, but other than that, I can't remember any more conversations.
So I have some data.
You're going to make us listen to data?
No, well, this is just the one question.
Search of his name.
Does this sound right to you that?
Your Honor, I object to leading this witness into this. If he has data, he can testify about it. If he doesn't have data, this is inappropriate.
People are entitled to lead
ask a
into
non-leading question.
Okay. If you were to put a name search, because it's a PDF, right? So you can do a name search.
Correct.
And if you were to do a name search of their son, you can find how many times their son was mentioned.
That's correct.
Okay. And if you were to do a name search of either their horses' names or horses, you could find how many times that was mentioned.
That's correct.
Okay.
Your Honor, this is going so far beyond the scope of,
No, it's not. This is, you asked about this. You asked about this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Would it surprise you that it's thousands and thousands and thousands different?
It would not at all.
Thank you. Now, you, sir, were asked a lot of questions about March 9th, March 8th, March 17th, March 19th, and March 20th. It's that area spring of 2021 that we talked about where the defendant's son was text messaging his mother and where James and Jennifer were at.
Correct. Yeah,
Okay.
I remember, yes.
So you were asked specifically, are you able to tell if Jennifer Crumbley saw those messages come in? You remember those questions?
Yes, I remember those questions.
Okay. I want to make clear that all of that information, all that evidence that was admitted on those days came from Jennifer Crumbley's original phone.
Correct.
Okay. So if she wouldn't have received it because either her phone was off or no service, it wouldn't have had the same timestamps that we see in here.
Correct.
Okay. So the timestamp of 6:03 on her phone, the exhibit, that means that's the time it actually got to her phone.
Correct.
Okay. And let me ask you something, sir. I don't think you need to be nice for to identify this, but when you take a picture, do you have to open your phone?
I mean, you have to take the picture, yes.
Right. You have to look at your phone.
Not necessarily, you just push the button on the
You have to
side.
hold it up and push a button.
Correct.
Okay. And so when we have pictures on Jennifer's phone from the exact same time that her son is sending her text messages, what does that tell you?
That she would have seen them.
Now you were asked about the alarm sent on December the 4th of 2021, and it was up on the screen. That's an exhibit.
I remember.
It was set for 6:30 a.m. and 6:45 a.m. on December the 4th, 2021.
Correct.
Okay, and it said when it was set. It said from 7 hours and 30 minutes from now.
Correct.
So then we can tell that she actually set that alarm at around 11 p.m. on Friday, December the 3rd.
That's correct.
Were you aware that Detroit police were actually on scene at that date and time, at that specific time, at the location where she was found?
Your Honor, I object in terms,
If he knows.
I would,
Oh, yeah, what is the objection?
well, the objection is lack of foundation about whether he knows.
Well, you can tell us.
Well, he could tell us if he knows. I don't know.
I was not aware when Detroit police was.
Okay. You were aware that they were on scene that evening?
Yes, I was.
Okay.
Yes, I am.
You were also asked about what counsel referred to as threats and Jennifer Crumbley, receiving threats. You remember those questions?
Yes.
Okay. And you didn't just review the Facebook messages between Jennifer Crumbley and Kira Pennock. You also reviewed other Facebook messages, other chats. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. And including the chat where she was communicating with a neighbor of hers on East Street, and James and Jennifer Crumbley met her at the Red Naps in Oxford the night of the shooting to exchange pet food.
I remember that.
Okay. Now, how close is the Red Naps to her home?
It's just down the road.
It's right in downtown Oxford, right?
Correct.
Like a block away.
Correct.
So you were asked specifically about Exhibit 130 here. If Jennifer Crumbley expressed some sort of concern over what her son did. Right here, I'm bawling right now, Kira. My son ruined so many lives today.
Yes, correct.
Okay. Now, that was substantially after she was asking to sell her horses for cash.
Correct.
Asking cash stats. I think
Correct.
Stats.
Yes.
Okay. And is there any text messages at all in this exhibit expressing any sort of sympathy over the victims after this?
Not that I recall.
And in fact, the conversation continues about liquidating her assets.
Correct.
And it continues about her not being able to see her horses
That's correct.
and expressing how upset she is that she can't see her horses.
That's correct.
Nothing further, Judge.
All right, you,